welcome to the Real News. This is your weekly broadcast where we discuss current events, the news of the week, the mainstream puppet press dare not report, and take your phone calls so that the public can voice their opinions, which we will be doing in the second hour. Today our guest is Bob Chapman, the international forecaster. He will be joining us after the first break here in about 10-15 minutes. You're here with Farron and Brian. And this being Mother's Day weekend, I wanted to start with a little history of Mother's Day that I found very interesting. This is in the Rock Creek Free Press. If you are looking for a real newspaper, feel free to contact us. You can email us on air at therealnewsradio.com. This is a monthly newspaper that is very informative. But Julia Ward Howe, a prominent American abolitionist, social activist, and pacifist, and poet most famous as the author of the Battle Hymn of the Republic, conceptualized the first Mother's Day in the United States in 1870. Howe became so distressed by the death and bloodshed of the Civil War that she called on mothers from around the world to come together and protest what she saw as the senselessness of their sons killing the sons of other mothers. With the Mother's Day proclamation, she called for an International Mother's Day celebrating peace and motherhood. Howe attempted to make Mother's Day a day of peace. She proposed converting July 4th into Mother's Day to commemorate the nation's anniversary to peace. This proposal failed, but eventually June 2nd was designated for the celebration. In 1873, a women's group in 18 North American cities did join the celebration, but Howe funded many of these. She became greatly distressed by the commercialization of Mother's Day, and she opposed what she saw as a misuse of the holiday. Jarvis went so far as to sue to stop Mother's Day event in 1932. She was arrested for disturbing the peace at the American War Mothers group. She was protesting their sale of flowers. Jarvis even petitioned against a postage stamp featuring white carnations and the word Mother's Day. She was successful in having Mother's Day removed, but the carnation stayed. Jarvis fought to her dying day the exploitation of Mother's Day by florists and other merchants, writing, "What will you do to rout charlatans, bandits, pirates, and racketeers, kidnappers, and other termites that would undermine what their greed, one of the finest, noblest, and truest movements and celebrations?" Jarvis' efforts were futile. So this is a little history of Mother's Day that I was unaware of. Brian, had you ever heard the story of Mother's Day, and the lady that started it was the one that wrote the Battle Hymn of the Republic?
No, I did not know that.
So I thought people might find that a little interesting here on Mother's Day weekend. Just to get started with a little bit of the news, this was reported in the Washington Post May 6th. The Obama administration is considering an unprecedented fall vaccination campaign that could entail giving Americans 3 flu shots, 1 to combat the annual influenza and 2 targeted at the new flying flu virus spreading across the globe. Something we talked about last week with Dr. Carley, that this flu would most likely return with a vengeance, but the savior, the United States government, would have ready at its disposal the vaccination you need. Here's already being reported in the Washington Post, 3 shots coming for you this fall. If enacted, the multi-billion-dollar effort would represent the first time that top federal health officials have asked Americans to get more than 1 flu vaccine in a year, raising serious challenges concerning production, distribution, and the ability to track potentially severe side effects. Another option, said Dale Morris, chairman of the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices at the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, is adding to the seasonal flu shot an ingredient targeted at the new virus. Experts in and out of the administration are evaluating a raft of complicated issues, including who ought to receive an inoculation against the swine flu, and whether private vaccine makers can simultaneously manufacture the standard 180 million doses, as well as up to 6 million rounds of a new vaccine. So, Brian, we're seeing it. They're getting it ready. Something that we have forecast here, and of course Dr. Carley did also, but if you remember your history, something we've talked about, 1976, one person dies of the swine flu. The Ford administration comes out with mass inoculations. I've heard different reports. As much as 5% of the people that got the shots, at least 25 or 30 died. Many were made sick and disabled. So any thoughts on this? Surprised? Washington Post, May 6, 2009.
Not surprised at all, and of course it's just going to benefit the medical industrial complex. It's isn't it a coincidence that every issue that seems to come around practically weekly always benefits some major corporate complex, whether it's the medical industrial complex, the military industrial complex, big oil, somebody always benefits no matter what happens.
And this report didn't go into it, but we had it last week. We discussed it. Baxter Pharmaceuticals being appointed to manufacture the vaccine after what we've covered well on this broadcast as far as their H5N1 flu in the flu vaccine they sent to 18 countries. So we're going to stay on this. I think that the way the World Health Organization went to level 5 so fast, it's not really near as scary as they have made it out, but they're poising to be our savior come this fall when this swine flu most likely will come back with a vengeance. It appears to be all done by design. Now, this is something that I wanted to get in today, and this is being reported on WZTV Fox 17. Bill would prevent federal government from regulating firearms in Tennessee. Tennessee lawmakers may soon send the federal government a loud message, hands off our guns. A new law is under consideration that would say if firearms are manufactured and sold inside the state of Tennessee, federal gun laws would not apply. Visit any gun store right now and you'll hear the same story. Gun buyers are stocking up on weapons and ammunition is in short supply. We've had Gail that's called in from different gun shows. We know this to be a fact. It is very significant. Fear for a lot of Tennesseans, say John Harris, Executive Director of Tennessee Firearms Association. Harris says gun owners are worried. They believe the federal government may soon restrict certain weapons. But it's our way to make a statement to say, that is, Tennessee, these are our guns, says Representative Henry Fincher of Cookeville. Now lawmakers have proposed a new bill called the Tennessee Firearms Freedom Act. Way to go, Tennessee. Some of these states are waking up. They see that they don't need the federal government to dictate and to treat them like a puppet. We know there's a move on against the Second Amendment. We've reported on it several times here through, just like the Department of Defense was trying to not sell the brass back to manufacturers. We had that story a couple of weeks ago. Apparently that has fell by the wayside, but we know that there's a broad movement on against our Second Amendment rights. We won't see anything like this probably from North Carolina, it being the bootlicker of the New World Order, but at least the state over, they have the guts to stand up and oppose the tyranny of the federal government. While we've got just a few minutes, next week our guest will be in the second hour, Virginia Fox. She will be joining us. We're going to take some phone calls from the listeners. Hopefully on that we've got something that Gail had also called in and spoke to her yesterday on the census. We're going to be looking into that. It's very interesting. And in the first hour we will have Jared Fuller, Young Americans for Liberty, Wake Forest University, a very interesting young man trying to do the good fight for freedom. I think you'll enjoy that and the movement that he's got going there at Wake Forest University. He had successfully got Ron Paul to come over and speak a couple of weeks ago, and huge turnout, was it not, Brian? Huge turnout.
Yeah, Jared told me after the event he thought there was probably about 1,300 to 1,500 people there. It was an amazing event. Young man, very inspirational. This movement, of course, is the future, and it's always inspirational to see younger people involved, like Jared or Luke Radowski. We Are Change in New York, because undoubtedly, I mean, this is their future.
So again, next week we will have Virginia Fox, Jared Fuller as guest. We will be back after the break with Bob Chapman, the international forecaster, here on The Real News.